welcome to this week's Nurses Trivia, the game show that gives you the do's and the don'ts of tricky situations in the nursing world and to keep you in the loop. My name is Lindsay and I'm the host. Today we have our four contestants, Jaskari, Judson, Krishant, and Sonia. Today we are analyzing the tricky situation that Mr. P has gotten himself into. Mr. P is a registered nurse who once tried to apply to the Royal Australian Air Force with some dodgy information in 2011, and then in 2012-2013 he had some reports made against him due to some questionable behavior. We'll start with question 1. In what ways did Mr. P practice misconduct?
He falsified his application to the Royal Australian Air Force Navy by claiming he had experience and qualification, but that didn't truly. He also claimed that he held a master's degree in nursing and is a registered nurse practitioner, but in reality both were false.
Yeah, there were also worries that he did not obtain consent for procedures from patients with diverse backgrounds.
And he allegedly falsified patient records regarding their medications.
He also made numerous racial and offensive posts which were directed to people of all cultures and ethnicities for the public to view.
He also broke racial confidence by sharing information to other outside the family.
Okay, so in what ways did Mr. P practice misconduct? He falsified his application and qualifications. He did not obtain consent with all of his patients, falsified patient medication records, made vilifying and racist posts on his social media, and he broke patient confidentiality. And on to question 2. Question 2. How could have Mr. P practiced the accountability required of a registered nurse?
From an article from the Dequans University, they had done a study on accountability among nurse leaders. They had stated that nurses who admit to making faults and deficiencies, as well as asking for assistance, shows integrity and promotes patient safety.
And he should have stayed up to date on nursing standards, code of conduct, and maybe code of ethics.
And he could have implemented safeguards by having his peers double check his work to ensure accountability.
Lastly, by furthering his learning of evidence-based research in health, he would have become a more knowledgeable and respectful nurse.
Alright, so how could have Mr. P practiced the accountability required of a registered nurse? He should have asked for assistance and admitted his deficiencies, stayed up to date on the standards of practice, code of conduct, and code of ethics, implemented accountability safeguards, and furthered his evidence-based learning. Now on to question 3. Question 3. Which standards of practice from the Nursing and Midwifery Board did Mr. P neglect to follow?
Standard 1 describes how nurses should use critical thinking and evidence-based decisions on providing safe, quality practices with a person-centered approach. To go into detail, Mr. P broke nearly all of Standard 1. He never respected any cultures of cultural and linguistical diverse people. Looking back, he also made no real reflection upon his practices. He kept breaking confidentiality of patient, family, malpractices were repetitive, and he was prejudiced against diverse people.
And according to Standard 2 of Practice Standards for Nurses and Midwives, it mentioned that a registered nurse communicates productively and is admiring of the person's nobility, culture, values, beliefs, and rights. And they advocate on behalf of people in a way that esteems the person's autonomy and legal capacity. Nurses uses dedication, supervision, consultation, coordination, and reference in professional relationships to attain better health outcomes.
And according to Standard 3 of Practice Standards for Nurses and Midwives, they must be having behaviors and responsibilities inherent in their roles and their actions of others to whom they have delegated responsibilities. Mr. P was just an anesthetic nurse in a major hospital, but he provided false information by saying that he had experience in post-anesthetic care and he was qualified in perioperative nurse. He was qualified perioperative nurse with a master's degree, and also included that he was a nurse practitioner at a busy city trauma hospital with a great experience in all aspects of anesthetic nursing.
following this channel 6, which clearly instructs that a nurse should follow safety and cultural integrity of a patient, which Mr. P clearly broke that. He also should have reported any incident that took place to his superior. So that's how we can keep the privacy of the patient clear.
Question 3. Which standards of practice did Mr. P neglect to follow? Standard 1, Standard 2, Standard 3, and Standard 6. Now on to question 4. Question number 4. The Nursing and Midwifery Board also requires nurses to abide by the codes of conduct. Which of these principles did Mr. P violate?
According to Principle 1 of Code of Conduct of Nurses and Midwives, the nurses and midwives respect and adhere to professional obligations under the national law and abide by relevant laws. Mr. P stated that he was qualified with master's degree in perioperative nursing, which is a fake information of him, and by providing false information, he broke the law. According to Principle 1.1, it is important that nurses are aware of their obligations under national law, including reporting requirements and meeting registration standards. They must abide by an reporting obligation under the national law and other relevant legislation.
Mr. P clearly violated Principle 2 of the Code of Conduct. He made offensive marks against people of different ethnicities, performing mispractices which violate many legislative and ethical conducts. His approach to treating patients were never in the best interest of the patients themselves and their well-being and health. His lack of care and due diligence when documenting patients' information was also poor. There were also many instances where Mr. P did not perform informed consent, sharing confidential information of families, altering notes of patients. An example was being administered medications to patients even if they had not.
As per the third code of conduct, which Mr. B definitely broke, he should have worked with respect to all the laws and cultures. He should be bound to follow and inform any misconduct which took place at the board, which he didn't do. Because of this, a large case is filed against Mr. P.
According to Principle 4.2 of Code of Conduct, Mr. P must provide accurate, honest and verifiable information about their registration, experience and qualification, and they should never misrepresent by either a false statement or an omission their registration, experience, qualification or position. And according to 4.3, he must anticipate and seek to correct any misunderstandings the person may have about their nature and purpose of their assessments and reports. And based on Principle 4.4, he must responsibly use his right to not provide or participate directly in treatments to which they have a consensus objection.
Question 4. Which codes of conduct principles did Mr. P violate? Principle 1, Principle 2, Principle 3, and Principle 4. Now on to question 5. And lastly, question number 5. What are some communication strategies Mr. P should have implemented to avoid this tricky situation he's gotten himself into?
In the article written by Kwame and Patricia in the Biome Center, they stated that communication cannot be fully comprehended when a patient and their healthcare practitioner do not speak the same language. In these instances, cultural sensitivity is required and a translator should be brought in effective communication and for informed consent.
Active listening or listening with all of your senses is an essential communication skill that he should have used.
Treating every patient and their loved ones with empathy and respect encourages both parties to participate in clear communication as trust is established.
Also, using plain and simplified language ensures that individuals with varying levels of health literacy have a basic level of understanding to build upon.
Lastly, using effective and clear documentation leads to continuity between the varying healthcare workers.
Question 5. What are some communication strategies Mr. P should have implemented to avoid getting himself in this tricky situation? He should have had cultural sensitivity training, practiced active listening, treated everyone with empathy and respect, You always use plain language and keep effective documentation. And that is the end of our game. Jessica and Sonia have led the game with 6 points each, followed by Krisha and Judson with 5 points. We hope you enjoyed this week's Nurses Trivia and are leaving here today with a better understanding of the nursing standards of practice, code of conduct, as well as some additional accountability and communication skills to keep yourself out of tricky situations, like the one Mr. P found himself in. We'll see you all next week.